Okay, I think we're ready now. I apologize for being delayed here. I had the GoToWebinar started and ready to go, but I think it had started another session because I did not realize they were different session webinar ID numbers. So I've got Emily and Sarah here, so thank you, and sorry if you thought this wasn't going to happen, because I was sitting here recording and I was over in the other room, the other webinar room, going, something's not right here. How come nobody has shown up? So I decided to check, and sure enough, it had the wrong link, so that was my mistake. So we're going to get started here. First, can I ask to make sure either Emily or Sarah, or either both of you, you can click into the questions area and show and let me know if my sound is being broadcast properly. You can do that for me. You can hear me, but okay, great, both of you. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started here, and I'm going to jump right in. And I apologize for the delay. We'll just pick up. I was over basically recording and talking to myself in the other webinar room, so I apologize for the delay on that. I'm glad I thought about that for a second, that I knew somebody was actually going to show up, but we got it rolling now. So what we're going to do this week is I'm going to cover, or as we do these seminars, because these are so long, or not so, I say so long, because we do have an hour and a half, or should I say, with these. Tonight we'll run about an hour. I should finish up. I'll get finished up about 8:15, 8:20 or so. So we'll run about an hour with the presentation part, and then I'll leave it open for any questions if you have any. To the let's see, we go to 8:30, so I'll leave plenty of time for questions, or if you have questions as we go through, you can ask those. Just pop those into the questions box as we have them as we go along. I'll stop and answer those as we go. I may not answer yours right away, but as I get to them and work on them, I can answer those. Okay, so my screen is projecting. I'm just double checking here. My screen is projecting and my voice is working on there. So we're going to get rolling here. What we have got, and let me switch over to my student view here. And what I was going to tell you is these sessions are put online on the Ivy Tech YouTube site. I don't know if there's been any type of announcements to the students yet in the different classes. I'm getting ready to send an announcement out to the other instructors to see if they'll put it in their classes. I have sent an email out to everyone in this class letting you know, so I know that's why I have a couple of students here. And these are going to be put on the Ivy Tech YouTube site. I think if you go to YouTube and go to Ivy Tech, I think if you put maybe NETI, I don't know exactly where to find it, but if you put, well, there you go, you can find that one. Okay, well, I guess you found me too. So that one is the one I put online. If you go to Ivy Tech, I don't think this one got put online, but I'm not sure which one this one is here. There we go. That is that's the one. So that one is, you can subscribe to that channel right there. Well, that's Ivy Tech Community College. You can subscribe to that, and that will does add a message to your video. Maybe I can pop in and add a message later. But what I'm telling you is, if you want a shorter version of just the presentation material. Oh, Emily, you received an email about it? Well, I sent an email out for my class. I just don't know if any students from any other classes sent any out. So what I was going to tell you, though, is if you go and search for my channel, and if you go into YouTube and you search for Jason space E space Johnson, you have to put the space E in there to find me. And then once you get to my channel, you can click on my channel there. And then if you scroll down, well, and if you subscribe to me, subscribe and you'll see all the new emails that pop up. But if you scroll down and you look at the playlist, and I've got these playlists down here, you can see the Spring 2015. Those are the ones I'm putting up here. Those are that's the videos for these seminars here. So if you click that, that's going to be these videos here. So you can find them on my channel, or you can find them on the Ivy Tech channel. But if you go here to the NetICAD RNS Course 1, which is this NETI 105, I've got this playlist of these videos here. I've got the packet tracer intro. I've got all of the PowerPoints. Do not have Chapter 8 up yet, or finishing. I've got to finish Chapter 8 and put Chapter 9 up there, but those will be coming shortly in the next week or two. And then I've also got the subnetting and advanced subnetting on there. So when we get to the subnetting area, you can look at those videos and check those videos out, because they are, I think, a lot easier. Not that I'm bragging or anything, but it's just I've taken the subnetting and I've tried to really make it simple. And so, oh, Sarah, okay, great, thank you. And so you can check those videos out. If you subscribe to my channel, then you'll see the updates when I put them on there and get all the updates. And you'll also find I do other, I mean, if you just check my channel out, it's not that I'm trying to get anybody to subscribe to my channel other than just letting you know that there's good information there. I've got videos for the CSIA 105. I don't have any of the material on there, but if there's other material, I mean, you can check out the uploads, obviously, and see I put all kinds of other stuff out there. So if you come across anything that you find helpful for you, you can check it out. But it's usually videos I do for my different courses. And Sarah's saying you got an email from Ivy Tech at HEED listing all the class with optional webinars. Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's go back to the material here. So what I'm planning on doing the rest of the time with these seminars, these weekly seminars, is to catch up to the material. We're in week 6 right now. In a couple of weeks, we'll have spring break. We will not have a seminar for this this weekly seminar, but as we get caught up, I'm going to cover the material kind of rapidly here. You've probably, you've already went through this material yourself, but this will give you a chance to get caught up on anything that you missed, maybe that you're not quite sure about a particular point, or you're stuck on something in particular. And so what I'm going to do is go through the PowerPoints and then lecture on those. Keep that as short as possible if I can. And if you look at those YouTube videos that I've done on the PowerPoints, I've tried to keep them to 10 to 15 minutes for each part so that I can, keep a short time on them. So let's go through the PowerPoint for Chapter 1 real quick. And the objectives, I'm not going to read down through those. If you want to, do a screenshot or something of those or download the PowerPoints, you can do that. But Chapter 1 is giving an overview of the Cisco course and talking about networks. We talk about being globally connected. We talk about LANs, WANs, Internet. What are the differences? Why do we have different words for those? What's a LAN versus what's a WAN? The network as a platform, the changing network environment. So what Cisco has got or has put together, kind of got this word or I guess theme, and they talk about the Internet of everything, and they talk about 2020 and beyond. Everything is going to be connected, or almost everything's going to be connected. We're going to connect our home appliances. We're going to connect our cars. We're going to connect pretty much everything. We're just going to connect everything. We're going to connect our pets. We've already got it where you can RFID chip your pets, where you can do a reader on them. But what if they develop technology that you could find where your pets were all the time? So if you knew your pet ran away and you could, just hop onto your computer, hop onto your handheld device and just plug in and say, okay, yeah, my pet's 2 streets down, and I can go and I can GPS and go find them and drive and get them. Or your children, they've already got the things where your children can wear bands around their wrist, or they can wear devices that we can track. We can track where we are. And obviously, the dark side of that, where whether we have governments or other people tracking us, that with the good stuff always comes, sometimes with the negative things too. But with all of that, it's becoming science fiction is no longer fiction. It's the things you saw in Star Trek, back in the 1970s. Well, actually, that was the 1960s. But as Star Trek, you see the things, or the Star Wars. If you read any of the science fiction, Heinlein and some of those. And the things they talked about, it's becoming a reality of what we can do. It won't be too long before we have self-driving cars. Google's already got working on that, so it won't be too long before we have semis that drive themselves. They just load a truck up and it just takes off and it gets to where it's going. A robotic robotic delivery type of thing. Where if you ever watched the movie I, Robot, which is based upon the 3 laws of robotics, that technology is rapidly getting here. Well, now, with that in context of what I just said, somebody has to make all that networking happen. Somebody has to put it all together, because we do have to connect to be able to communicate. And that's what networks are all about. We communicate through the computers. So when we talk about being global, we are, and in this instance here on this PowerPoint, we're showing where they've got screens there, and there's somebody that's not in that area. That they could be around the globe somewhere, but they're being connected by technology, and that's where the networks come in. So networking does impact our daily lives. It's the way we communicate with each other. I was just talking with, I'll give you an example. I was just on the phone with Verizon, and I do not have texting on my cell phones. And I don't want to pay for it. It's like for the Verizon full texting, it's like $30 a month, and I just don't want to pay that. And in my family, we just don't text that much. We pick up the phone and call. And the tech at Verizon was like, oh, he goes, that's interesting. He goes, it's not too many people anymore that I deal with that don't have texting on their phone. They don't use their phones just for phones. And I was like, well, I said, it's not that I'm old. It's just that I just don't do the texting. I would rather pick up the phone and talk, and I don't have a problem with texting. I think it's a great ability to be able to do that. But I just like to pick up the phone if I can, and I don't want to pay the extra money. It's more me being a cheap than it is with me not liking the technology. So with that, though, everything's connected. So whether we have small home networks, whether we work remote, for example, we're doing this right now. I'm sitting in my office in my basement, talking to you through my laptop. I've got, 2 monitors. I've got my laptop plugged into my second monitor. I've got, high-speed internet to you, and you could be located, and I'm assuming most of us are located in the state of Indiana, but I've taught online classes where I've had students in Afghanistan. I've had students in the Bahamas. I've had students in Hawaii, Alaska, around the United States and around the globe that we've connected just through education. And I've worked in companies where we had locations around the globe, and we mainly back then, that was back in the 90s, communicated by phone, but we have the ability now to communicate through networks. So when we're talking about networks, we have some different technology, or not technology, but we have some different terminology that we want to cover. And when we're talking about clients and servers, and we're talking about when you get into working with servers and server technology, you'll get a little bit more of this. But when we're talking about networking, we're talking about something on the network side. The difference between a client and a server doesn't mean it's actually a server like a big computer server. It just means that in a networking relationship, if my node or my computer is asking information from another computer, I'm the client. And if that other computer or other computing device, I'll just say a device, is providing information, it becomes a server. But if my laptop, if we're chatting back and forth, as we're talking right now, my laptop's acting as a server because I'm serving up information. And so when we're talking about context of networking, servers and clients just mean who's providing the information and who's receiving the information. So in a network relationship, when we're sending information back and forth, we become client and server back and forth as we're serving and as we're the client. So when we're providing services, though, when you talk about in the technology world and we talk about servers, we're talking about a web server, an email server, whether we have a web server somewhere that's providing web pages to us. That in that context, that is a server, and it's housing some type of information for us, whether it's a print server, whether it's a data warehousing database server, something along those lines. But we communicate back and forth in that client-server relationship. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you understand that there are differences in terminology when we're discussing that. So we have different types of networks. We have peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer is where we just have 2 different computers talking to each other. In that relationship, they can both be client and server, but there is no official networking taking place, or where there's no, let's go back here, there's no switches or devices or intermediary devices. And you'll hear that term with Cisco, intermediary devices. We don't have that here. We just have we might have this computer here. And let me ask real quick, and I don't have to have everybody, and I'll just ask Emily if you don't mind, or actually Sarah. Let me ask Sarah. Do you see my mouse on the screen? You do? Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make checks. I'm using my mouse as a circle, but I wasn't sure if you could actually see it or not because I can't see it in my preview. So you have this computer here. It's sharing its print information, so that this computer over here in a peer-to-peer relationship can send information to this computer and then on to the printer. So the advantages are it's very easy, it's less complex, it's easy to set up, and there's not much cost at all because you don't have routers and switches and you don't have all those intermediary devices. You don't have to have all the extra wiring. I mean, you can have just wires to go through. The disadvantage is if this computer right here goes down, the print sharing computer, I can't print. But if in a big network, if we've got like another type of network, then if that computer goes down and the printer's actually connected to a server, then I can still print to it. or if it's connected to, let me go back here. If that printer is connected through a switch, I can still print to it if it's got networking capability on it. So when we're talking about components of a network, we had the peer-to-peer, but when we step up, when we say that we're going to put a network together, there's 3 different categories of network components in the Cisco world. If you get out and you start looking at other networks and in the Network Plus and some of those areas, you might see some wider range of terminology. But in the Cisco world, we talk about devices and media and services. So your devices are what we use to interact with the technology. That's anything from a phone, a desktop computer, a server, or a switch. The devices are going to be our intermediary, or our devices could also be routers, could also be routers. The media is what we are sending, and their services are what the service that we're being, whether we're doing internet phone, whether the service that we're doing right now through webinar, that's the services that go through. Some of the examples of what we talk about in devices, those are the computers, the printers, the voice, the phones, whether we have a telepresence, that's where we're doing, the video chat. Security cameras could be an endpoint device or an end device. Mobile handheld devices, those are all end devices. Oh, the spotlight. Oh, yeah, I guess I could turn the spotlight. I forget about that. Let me go. Thank you, Sarah. I just saw that too. If I can find that again. I think that's on my, not the dashboard. I'll look for it here as I'm going through. There we go. There we go. Now I've got the spotlight. Just took me a second to get the right window open there. So infrastructure devices, those are going to be our access device. Those are switches, our WAPs, or what they call a wireless access point. You put a wireless router up. That's your WAP or WAP. Your internetworking devices, those are your routers, or security devices, such things as firewalls. Our media is, and I think I misspoke earlier when I was saying the media was our data that we're sending through. Data is what we're sending through and communicating. Our media is what we are connecting with, and our media is, whether we're using copper, fiber, wireless, or radio signals. Bluetooth could be another media that we're talking about. That's our medium or media. That's how we're sending those ones and zeros. Whether it's an electrical signal through using copper, whether it's a light signal using fiber optics, or whether it's radio signals using wireless, or radio signals using Bluetooth. We can also send, you've got microwave, if you're using dishes, and you can use microwave transmitters to send information back and forth. That's a medium as well, but typically what we see in our world, in the networking world, is either copper, and this is the most prevalent. Fiber optics, most starting into networking don't deal with fiber optics. You can move into fiber optics and use those. But for the most part, entry level and most networking people usually don't deal with fiber optics unless you get into that particular area. I've been working in networking and computers a long time, and I've never physically put fiber optics together. I mean, I've used fiber optic cables, but I buy them prepackaged. They're hard to work with if you're gonna work with them, and it's a specialized field. But it's a good field to go into if you want to go into that area. And then you've got the of course the radio signals or radio frequencies. Now, when we're talking about network representations, when we're dealing with Cisco has its own IDs or ways of identifying different devices. So when we're working in Packet Tracer, you're going to see these. You're going to see desktop computers and laptops. And let me open up. I'll go ahead and open up Packet Tracer. And you should have been already working with Packet Tracer, so you already are going to be familiar with these. As that opens up, so if we look at down here at our medium or at our devices, you have your, you'll have a router, and that's going to be, it's going to look like that. If you get into other types of networking, if you use the Juniper networks or you get it over to HP networks, they might have a little bit different representation the devices and of the different medium. But for Cisco and for this course, this is what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with intermediary devices. You know, that's a wireless router. It's got a wireless with the antenna on it. Firewall is going to have obviously a brick wall, which represents a firewall. And then our wireless medium, you know, is going to be signals because that's radio. LAN media is going to be a black wire, and then in WAN media, you know, if it's going to be red with maybe a lightning bolt or a Z in there, what I call the Z on there. So it's just going to look. You just need to get familiar with the representations that we're using. When we're talking about topology diagrams, when we work with topology, we have two different types of topology. We have our physical topology and our logical topology. The difference being, logical topology is how we have our, let me see if I can make this a little bit larger here. I have to keep switching my mode. Here we go. I'm going to make this a little bit larger here so it's easier to see for you on your end. In our logical topology, what we're doing is we're logically laying out how our network connects. It's not going to be an exact representation because that's what the physical topology is doing up here. But it's going to say our department servers. It's going to say what our mail server, our IP addressing, you know, whether, and this is in the IPv4. But if we had IPv6, we would represent that with IPv6. It's showing our backbones here and how the different WAN or the different LANs are connected, and then, you know, our firewall, and then out to the internet or the web or the cloud, and that's why it's represented by a cloud, but that's a cloud. In the physical topology, we are looking at how it's physically laid out, and that's how I always keep it straight. Physical topology is how you're physically going to see everything. Logical topology is how is all of your nodes and your information, but physical topology is going to show where everything is. It's not going to necessarily have your IP addressing on it. You're just going to be able to look at it and say, okay, I know physically where classroom 3 is located. I can then come over to my logical topology and say, okay, classroom 3, here's my IP addressing on there. The printer has 192.168.19 and 1.8.1.7 for that classroom. And if I look over here, yep, there's the devices. There's the printer. There's the two computers there, and there's our hub, which nobody uses hubs anymore, by the way. Their hubs are still in this mix here, but for the most part, nobody uses hubs anymore. They're just, switches are so cheap anymore compared to hubs that everybody just goes with switches. Just as a side note. Okay, so when we're talking about then LANs and WANs, the main difference here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because you probably have already covered this and you probably already know it. A LAN is a local area network. That's typically something that's going to be contained into a building. How I like to represent that is if I think about an Ivy Tech campus, and we talk about an Ivy Tech campus or a building is a local area network. That's usually a logical topology where they're in the same subnets or in the same subnetwork, and that's usually a LAN. A wide area network is typically going to be where you go to another building, or but it doesn't have to be another building because you can have a LAN that encompasses multiple buildings. But a WAN means you're going to connect somewhere else, and you don't necessarily have control over that other side. It's going to be a little bit larger. You also have MANs, wireless LANs, storage networks. You have CANs, which are campus area networks. You have city area networks. You have different types of area networks. It's just that we typically talk about LANs and WANs and along those lines. Now, when we talk about local area networks, that's typically going to be in the same building or campus, and those are devices that are using similar services, and one person or multiple people are. When I'm talking about person, I'm talking about the IT folks, the network folks, have access to that. When we're talking about a WAN, we're talking about a WAN, that's usually separated by some geographic distance. So when we're talking about Ivy Tech has become one LAN, and that's around the state. But we do have multiple WANs as we're connected. But for the most part, and if you've been on an Ivy Tech campus, well, you probably can as a student, but me as a faculty, I can see some printers and different services now across the state because we're all becoming one part of one LAN as part of a change made in Ivy Tech. But if you were talking about if I needed to get some services and I needed to connect to another university, and I was going to connect in and send email, then they become a different LAN, and then that's connected by the WAN. The internet, for example, is a WAN. It's a wide area network, or what we talk about the cloud. So LANs and WANs can be connected at what we call internetworks, but that's the internet. That's where we have all of these collections of LANs that are connecting onto the internet. When you connect in, and for example, I'll say I'm using Comcast, and when I connect into Comcast, I'm on the local Comcast LAN. Now I have my own LAN at my house because I've got my own routers, and I've got my own network set up here, so I've got my own little LAN. But I get my IP addressing from Comcast, and they're on a LAN because they're giving out IP addresses to their customers. But then they connect into other bigger areas, and then that become WANs and other connections. And then some different, I'm going to move through this real quick. We have intranet, extranet. Extranet is where we can connect to somebody outside of our area. And then internet is the world. It's just a different way to represent it here. And we're talking about connecting remote users. There's lots of different ways to connect, whether it's a digital subscriber line or DSL, whether we can connect with cable, or we use our cell phones or cell technology, or whether we do satellite, or whether we still use dial-up telephone. There are still a large number of people still using dial-up to get on the internet, which is still amazes me that we have that there are still people using dial-up to get on the internet. I can't imagine how they do anything other than maybe send email, but I just can't imagine how they could do any other type of service. But it still happens. You have at the larger area, or when we talk about businesses to the internet, we still might have a DSL. Or you might have a Metro Ethernet, or you might have dedicated lease lines. You might have some the bigger lines, the DS or the DS1s, DS2s, the big lines, the fiber optic lines that connect between an organization and an ISP or an internet service provider. You might use satellite technology. And Sarah, I've spent let me see. I was thinking 97, I think, or 98 is when I finally left dial-up. I still had a line at my house, but I went to wasn't Blue Sky. It was the one that was DirecTV was using with the satellite provider. But it's been a while. But I was paying $80 a month, and it wasn't much better than dial-up at that time. It was a satellite connection. I think I had 4 meg up or something like that. It wasn't a lot. 4 meg down or how they work. But I still had to have a telephone line because it still had to communicate through the telephone line. I still had to have that because some of the uploads still went to the telephone line. And then I think about all the money I spent on that for so many years until I could get to a place where I had high-speed access, and moved a few times over the last few years. And the first question that's always asked is, does it have high speed? Because that's when we even look at a house now. If we're looking at a house, that's the question that we have to ask. Okay, so when we talk about converging networks, we're talking about, and I'm just going to go through this real quick, but it's just saying that when we converge networks, that's where we're doing multiple services across the same medium. Whether we have networking, telephone, or broadcast network, we're doing that over the same medium now, where we have just larger lines, or if we can carry more data, but it's the same medium, but we're sending multiple types of data across there. Whether we're doing video chat, phone, if you've ever been set up like that, on my Ivy Tech campus, we have our phone systems, but the network comes into the phone first and then feeds over to the computers because the phones use the same IP networking as the computers do. They just share that common cable. So planning for the future. I'm going to skip to that real quick. There's a lot we're planning for the future. But when we switching gears here to supporting network architecture, as we evolve, there's 4 characteristics that Cisco talks about that need to be addressed to meet expectations, and that's fault tolerance. That is it going to work like it needs to work? Can it scale? Is it gonna be able? If your company is 50 employees now and it's going to go to 150, will you be able to scale your network to work with it? Quality of service, that is, are you going to be able to put your data through the system and have it work? Our email is going to get there. And then security, is it going to be hacked? And as I teach on the security side of things, and it's the standard now is not if you get hacked, but when you get hacked. It's a matter of when do you get hacked? How are you going to respond to it? Because security anymore these days is just It's going to happen. I mean, given how much stuff is connected and how much information is out there, it's going to get hacked at some point, and it's just a matter of how we deal with that. Everything from what we do here with college and connecting all our information, from the Affordable Care Act that was requiring all of our data now. I mean, all of our health data has to be digitized. So, and all of that has to be networked and available. That's the part of the way the law was written on that. And so all of our health information now is going to be connected in. All of our bank information is connected in. You know, all of our emails. If you use Gmail, if you use Yahoo Mail for your mail, that's being read. And Google has, you know, if you look at their terms of service, they tell you that they're scanning it. They're scanning it so they can sell ads to you. That's why it's free, because they're scanning your email to see what kind of ads you get. And I won't take you over to my email, but I could, you know, I've tested it. I mean, I see ads for insurance, you know, for car insurance. And it's like, yeah, because I send a lot of stuff back and forth to my wife about our car insurance and about our insurance. And sure enough, you know, I start seeing ads show up for insurance, or, you know, some other topic that I know that's going through a lot of my email. They target those ads to me, but because they're scanning my email. And the only way to get around it is to encrypt it and do some type of encryption, which is not covered in this course. It's covered in other courses, but that's about the only way to keep your information more secure, is doing a type of encryption. When we talk about fault tolerance, we talk about building a network that's going to work no matter what goes down, or minimum go down. And this is where we talk maybe like a mesh network here, where we have multiple devices. You might have 5 telephone switches, and so when our call is going through, if one of our switches go down, that call can just be rerouted. And that's what we talk about fault tolerance, that we have multiple paths for information so it can go through. When we talk about packet switch networks, that's where we have multiple paths again, because we're sending our information through in packets, and some of our packets might go through the bottom route here. Some of our packets may go through the middle route or back around, and some of them may go through the top route. It just depends on how that router deems it necessary to send that data at that time. And so some of your packets may go one way, some may go another, and that's how that we do when we talk about packet switch networks. And then when we talk about scalable networks, that's where we have what we call the tier 1s. That's the Comcast, that's the big guys, and then or even bigger. But then you have the tier 2s, which are smaller local ISP providers, maybe your well, tier 2, and then down to local ISPs, and then the users. Now, QoS, what they talk about QoS, or quality of service, and I'm not gonna read down through these. I'll just leave these up for a second so you can read down through these here on there. Time-sensitive communication. QoS is when you have to have, if it's time-sensitive communication, that's something like a telephone call or video. That can't be delayed. We can't use that with packets, because it's all got to go through, and it's all got to be delivered in order for you to be able to, well, for example, this is we're using QoS networking, or QoS with this video or with this sound, because you need to hear my sound. You can't hear one word and then go back 5 minutes and hear a word I said 5 minutes ago. All of this packet information has to be streamed all together. So that's what we talk about quality of service. So if the packets are dropping, things are dropping, you're not, you know, if you've ever used Skype, or, you know, even this, if it starts getting choppy on you and you start, you know, starts getting kind of staticky, it may be because your bandwidth is dropping, and there might be a QoS issue. And then network security. Again, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. We hopefully everyone, you know, listening to this either later or in the seminar right now understands what we talk about network security, where we have our data and we have to secure it. We use firewalls, we use malware protection, and as I've used an example in the past, you know, back in the 1800s, the stagecoach was pulled over, and the bandits would rob the stagecoach, or they would rob the train, and they would ride up to the train, they would stop the train, they would rob everybody on there, and they'd steal the gold off the train. Today, the criminals are stealing information out of our banks. We don't necessarily have a gun put in our face. I've had my credit card information stolen twice over the last few in the past. One time they got away with a little over a couple $100. The last time they didn't get away with anything because we caught it quicker. We're on our guard a lot more now about it, but it happens. And both times it wasn't even on the internet. Both times, one of them was at a speedway in Richmond, Indiana. I had the person behind the counter took my credit card number and stole it. And I won't go into how I know that, but we were able to track it down. And the second time was a McDonald's down in Texas. And I know where it was stolen because that's the only place I'd used my particular card, and it was the one number that was stolen. And that's the only place I had used it in the last probably 4 or 5 weeks. And it's as easy as the person at the window, and this is why I'm always watch my card. It's as easy as somebody just taking a smartphone real quick, their iPhone, taking a picture of the front, taking a picture of the back, and handing your card back to you. They've got your number on the front. They've got your security code on the back. They can create their own card within a matter of minutes, and they're off to the races. And if you don't catch it in quick enough time, they've stolen your they've stolen your bank information. They've stolen your debit card, your credit card, and they're off spending. And they'll go to a Best Buy. They'll buy 2 or 3, usually 2. They usually don't spend too much, but they'll buy a couple of iPads. They'll buy maybe a laptop. They'll go out on Craigslist and sell them that same day. And they may purchase a laptop for $1,000 and then go sell it for $500 on Craigslist and then be done, and they're gone, and you'll never catch them. They disguise themselves, wear a hat, and they go into Best Buy, and then they'll go into a large Best Buy, and then they're gone, and you never catch them. The bank is the one ends up getting charged, and they charge their insurance, and their bank rates go up, and the cost of everything goes up because of it. And I'm going to switch over. Bring your own device. That's just where everybody's bringing their own devices. They're bringing their, yeah, Sarah, my thoughts exactly. I'm just going to go through some of these here that cloud computing. I'm just going to skip down. Data centers, I'll leave this up for a few seconds if you want to pause the video later if you're watching this. Trends in the home where we're connecting everything. We're connecting our cars. We're connecting our refrigerators, our stoves, everything. Our electrical devices. Electric companies now are putting what they call smart boxes on homes where they can track how much electricity is being used, the different trends in that. And then it's going to be at a point where with those smart electrical boxes, they'll be able to tell what devices are using what types of electricity and how much they're using. And there's good things to there's good things to that and bad things to that. It depends on how you look at it. There's a Powerline Networking where you can use your power over internet or PoE. There is a way to be able to get internet out to homes using power lines. However, it's not being used widely because it interrupts ham radio operators. For some reason, the way it works, and I don't know all the details about how it works, other than I know it sends a signal across power lines, and it does interrupt radio communications, and because of that, it's not being widely used. But we do have the technology to be able to put internet in every home in America that has power. It's just you would have to buy the hardware, and then they can send internet signals through your power lines to your house, and we wouldn't have to have cable lines, and we wouldn't have to have wireless. We wouldn't have to have cell phone type technology. We could send them through the power cables or power lines, but it's just not being done because it's an expense and it's just not being pushed over. But you can do that in your house. You can buy devices which you can plug your devices into your power and send your signals through your power lines. It's out there. It's been out there for a few years too. And then you have wireless broadband services. That might be something like if you have a cell tower using cell technology. And security threats. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We know the security threats are out there. We have denial of service attacks. We have identity thieves. Have spyware, adware. It just come out today. I don't see if I can find the Lenovo. If you go and look at any of the news, Lenovo was caught installing adware on their new computers, and Lenovo is a Chinese. They used to be IBM. IBM sold the Lenovo name or their IBM desktops, laptops over to a Chinese company, which turned it and called it Lenovo. And it was they finally admitted it that they were putting an adware called Superfish on their computers. And it's a tracking software. It's basically what it is. It's to serve up ads. They look at your surfing habits, and then they serve up ads to you. But they're tracking you, or Lenovo was tracking people. The bad thing about that particular malware is it could, without going into too much, if you look right here, if I'm logged on to Google site here, Google site, and I can say that I'm verified because of certificates. that particular software manipulated the certificate programs on those computers, and those could be hacked, or other types of malware. So if I went to my bank, and let's just say if I went to Amazon.com and logged on, and I'll have to give it access here. I'll have to let Flash run. I haven't set this one yet. I had to rebuild my Chrome last night, and so if I go in here to shop, and I go into my shopping cart, and I'm not logged in. But if I look here, it's not been verified yet because I've not signed in yet. And Amazon might not be a good one. I'm not going to do Best Buy. Let me do Walmart.com. See if Walmart will connect me here. Yeah, Walmart's not connecting me until you log in either. Tell you what, let me log into Netflix. That'll do it. And okay, and see on Netflix there, and if you see the little in Chrome, you can see that I'm verified with my encryption. With that, and I logged on the kids' account just because my son watches my regular Netflix account, and I'm never sure what's going to show up on there. So if you look on the connection there, you can see that. Well, that particular malware or adware manipulated that, and it can make you, well, right here on the Citrix. See, it's letting me know that I'm connected using certificates that are used by the large companies, Citrix Online, but that particular adware manipulated that, and that could be manipulated where that could be fooled. And so if you were looking up here, you might not be so sure that you had the right connection. So kind of serious with Lenovo. So even the company, Lenovo, that you'd think you could trust, was putting something on computers, new computers for people buying them, that was that could be deemed a threat. And then we have security solutions, and we get into those a little. This class isn't going to deal with so much with security solutions and security devices. That's on some of the other Cisco classes. We talk about it. We talk about setting up security in here. We set up some access control lists and some things like that, but you're really going to get into that in later Cisco classes. But when we talk about firewalls or access control list, virtual private networks, and along those lines, that's what we talk about. Okay. If I have any questions, go ahead and put any questions at this point. I'm going to go ahead and drop this PowerPoint slide here. If there are any questions. If you don't have any questions, you don't have to put that in. Just drop any questions in if you have them. And what I'm going to do here is I don't think I'm going to do the labs. You've already run through these labs anyway. I'm going to cover sessions 3 and 4 next week. So we'll do 3 and 4 during week 7, and then I'm going to do doubles as we're going. But the session 2. So no questions yet. Okay. What I'm going to do is run through this PowerPoint for session 2 real quick, or chapter 2. And I believe, let me see here, that's chapter 1. So that'll be chapter 2. That's session 3. So I'm going to go ahead and go through that this week. I'll go ahead and cover that real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because you should have already went through this, but we talk about the iOS boot camp. Let me see here. Well, Emily, I'm going to get caught up. It's because of what happened with us getting a late start. I was supposed to start these statewide seminars week 1, but that just did not happen due to some errors that happened. And so, because of this is week 6, and I'm getting caught up this week with chapter 2. So I'm covering a lot more material each week right now, and then I'll slow down a little bit, especially when we get to sessions 8, 9, 10, because there's a little bit more. Specifically, what I want to leave this last 30 minutes open for is if there's anybody that has any particular questions on any labs that you're currently covering, or any questions that you have, and I can cover those right now. I can open up Packet Tracer, I can walk through those and help you through those. Ramez, are you in my class? No, not Emily. Is it Ramez? Okay, you're online with Bess. You'll need to get with your instructor to have them open up the PowerPoints for you. I think I have them opened up. Let's see here. I thought I had them out here. I thought I had them in the courses, but for some reason they're not. I thought they were. Click, oh, that's right, session header. So if we go up here, Ramez, if you go here to Session 2, Introduction, Learning, and Objectives, I think is where they are. And if you click right there, you should be able to, you may not be able to download them in your course. I've opened them up for students in my course. That's right, Sarah, yeah, but you know, I opened those up, Sarah, last week, but when you go into Files as the student, and you go out here to PowerPoints, it won't let you download them directly. And I don't know why it did that, which was kind of weird, because I was checking today and see, you can't actually go into Files and check them out. You can see the folder, but you can't check them out. But if you go into the module, yeah, Ramez, check first. If you check, for example, like on Session 2, if you click on Session 2 right there, and if you look down at the bottom, it should say the link right there. And if you can't download it from right there, just email your instructor, ask your instructor about it to open those up for you. Sure, no problem. Okay, any questions? I'm going to leave this last 20 minutes or so open to, I'm not going to go to the, I was going to go to the PowerPoint, but I'm not going to do that. If you want to go to the PowerPoints, just the PowerPoints, you can go to my YouTube channel, and they're out there, and you can review those at your own time, or tonight if you're wanting to do them after the seminar. But they're out there, and that way that you know you have access to them, at least up through Chapter 8, and I'm working on the rest of Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 this week and next week. So any questions? Can I show you anything on labs, anything in Packet Tracer? Oh, okay. What's the difference between a hub and a switch? Okay, good question. When we talk about the OSI layer, I'm going to give you a long answer to your question. I hope that's okay, because I just want to explain this in the best way here. Okay, when we talk about, and I'm trying to, let me see if I can bring up an image here and give you a good difference. So when we're talking about a hub, and there's not a lot on the outside that might look different, because you might have a hub that looks like this, and you might see you have your RJ45 connections, and so you can plug your devices in and they can communicate with each other. And then we have our switches. If I can get a good image here, and then you might have something that looks like a switch. And it doesn't look much different. I mean, from the outside, it really doesn't look much different. But what's happening is in the background. And let me pull up. I don't have my pen on me. I need to get my. I've got a drawing pad that I can draw, and it makes it a lot easier here. Let me. Well, okay. Think about a hub as when we're communicating. I was trying to pull up a good graphic here for you, but I'm just going to talk about it. Think about a hub as if we are just going to talk to each other. And let's just say that I'm in a crowded room, and there's 10 people in a room, and I'm talking, and I'm just gonna talk like I'm talking now, and all 10 of those people in that room can hear me, and that is basically what a hub does. A hub connects a lot of devices, and all of those devices can hear each other because we're on the same network, we're on the same device, and everybody can hear each other talk. So when that information goes back and forth, you know, if you start talking and we all start talking at the same time, all of our information is going to go back and forth. And you have collisions, and the hub does some basics of communicating properly. But let me pull up the OSI model. I can show you from a standpoint of the OSI model here. So what a hub does, and let me just see if this image is going to pull up good here. Ew, that's a nasty looking one. Let me pull up a better one here. Ooh, there was a good one. Nope, that one didn't turn out good. I know there's one in the course, but let me just pull up an OSI model here, because I'm trying to pull one up that's beside it. Here we go. I'll use this one. Oh man, that one's bad too. That one's hard to see. I'm trying to pull, this is the OSI model here, but I'm trying to pull one up that's beside itself. It's laid out beside each other. because then I can make an example. Here we go. Let me try this one here. This one will work. So now, what a hub does, when we have our physical link, or this is our physical layer down here, we have our physical layer, and that physical layer is our medium, or if we're connected with a Ethernet, copper cable, whether we're connected with fiber optics, it doesn't matter. That's where a hub operates. All a hub does is take that data and it passes it along. It's nothing more than a device that helps us extend our network or connect our network. And that's all it does. It works at the layer 1. And when I say at layer 1, it doesn't do anything with the data. It just takes all those ones and zeros and it just passes them right along. What a switch does, think of a switch, is if we're in that same room now, I can still talk to everybody, but I'm going to start. We're going to hand everybody a telephone, and I'm going to say I'm going to start talking to individual people now, and I need to talk to just Emily, and so I'm going to ring your phone number, and you and I are just going to talk on the phone together. We're still on the same network. Other people can pick up the party line if they wanted to and listen to us. We can, what we call network sniffers. They can still hear our conversation or see our data, but we're going to keep it a little bit more private because that switch is going to work at the layer 2. It's going to work at the data link layer, and it's going to say what is our MAC address or our machine address code, and Emily and I are going to have a conversation now where we're only sending information back and forth to each other. We don't need IP addressing. We don't need an internet protocol number. We're just going to say our two devices are going to start sending information back and forth, and that's a switch. When we get to the router level, or I always think of it this way, a hub is nothing more than just passing along the information. A switch is like a telephone switch operator. The telephone switch operator is going to say, okay, who is this phone call going to, and I'm going to pass you along. We can still all see each other, and we're still in the same room on a LAN, but that switch is allowing us to have a little bit more of a private conversation, and it doesn't give it gives us a little bit better network control, because then we can say that we want that switch to be able to only pass between certain computers. Let's say, let me go back here let me pull up. I don't think I have it on the PowerPoint. Let me go back here to the modules. I'll pull up oh yeah, let me pull up the PowerPoint back up. I want to demonstrate on the model here. So yeah, there's a switch there. So that switch is going to say that this web server is going to, this browser client is going to go to this web server right here. So they can pass information through this switch. The switch is going to say, I'm not sending this information out to these other individuals unless they want the information. We could still sniff that information because it's at the layer 2. There's no encryption to it. There's just, it's looking to see where it needs to go, and it switches it. A router at the next level up, versus we know what a hub is. Hub just passes information through. Then if we get up to the routing layer, then we're talking about something like, that's a switch there. See, a switch is just going to connect in. See, a switch versus a hub isn't going to say, if this computer right here, if this computer here wants to talk, if this was a hub and I had a piece of data that came in like this, it would get sent out on all of the networks every time. But a switch is going to say, I know that this user here is wanting to go out to the server, so I'm going to send it directly to the server. These others, they're still going to see the initial switch. It's going to ping out and it's going to say, nope, that doesn't belong to me. Don't send me the rest of the information. And so the switch won't send it out. So it's a little bit smarter. Then the router, when we get to the router, that works at the layer 3 model. That's the network layer. And that's where we can start routing data and saying that data is going to be sent between LANs or between WANs. We're going to use a WAN then. And it routes much like the telephone operator, but we're saying now instead of dialing somebody up in the same room, we're going to call somebody in the next city. And I'm going to have a conversation with them. And everybody in my room now, everybody that's in those 10 people in that room, they have no idea that the conversation is even happening, because that switch is sending that data up to the router, and somebody over here doesn't even know that conversation is happening. Now, these people in this room, if they're connected to the same switch, they obviously can still see the conversation. It's just that you have to have special software at that point to be able to sniff the network or see what the network's doing. But then the router then routes that information on out where it needs to go, and then those packets get sent through the networks. Well, let me pull up the next slide. Makes a lot more sense then. And then we route that to the best way it needs to go, whether it needs to go bounce here, then bounce there to the network on there. Okay, I know that was a really long answer, but does that explain? Does that help you with the differences? Okay. I didn't mean to confuse anything. It's just I could have just said one passes the information along and the other one takes it up to the next layer. But that's essentially what it's doing, is that they're using different layers of the OSI model. They're using different layers of the OSI model, and in that instance of doing that, they are using different. They're using different types of communication. Okay, any other questions? Well, Emily, what my recommendation is the way this class is built, you're learning network fundamentals and you're learning Cisco routing at the same time. So you're really learning you're learning how to dance and you're being asked to tango at the same time. So, Sarah, you downloaded what? You downloaded, hold on. You downloaded the PowerPoint? It should give you the PowerPoint slide. Yeah, it should give you the PowerPoint slide. You've been under Files, you can download other stuff. Oh, you tried from the Files folder? Yeah, it shouldn't give you anything that shouldn't have access to. So like Instructor Planning Guide, you shouldn't be able to get that. See, you shouldn't be able to get that. Should be able to get all your labs. All that should be there. Not sure, that's just a photo there. Quiz files, yeah, you shouldn't be able to get anything. Network Plus materials. Yeah, that's just objectives. Yeah, okay, but you should be you can't get the PowerPoints from there either. You have to get the PowerPoints from each individual module. But if you're not in my course, my network. Oh, sure, yeah, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Because that's what I was doing earlier today. I was checking to see if I could download it from different areas, and I thought I had unlocked it in the files area, but I haven't. And it's the way that, if you look over here, I'll show you real quick what mine looks like. When I go to unlock it, it doesn't give me the access just to unlock it. I have to unlock it per module. Lock it or unlock it per module. See, I can either lock it or unlock it. And when I unlock it, it's just, even when I edit it, well, it's kind of weird. Otherwise, I have to unlock each one. I have to go through and see, and well, it just doesn't work right. It's kind of, the NetICAD site's funky the way it works. It's kind of counterintuitive sometimes to the way I think things should work, but okay. Well, it's sometimes I think software is out to get me. My wife thinks I'm a little bit paranoid about it, but I think it's bordering becoming self-aware. Okay, any other final questions? I'm going to hang out here for a few more minutes, but feel free to log off if you need to, or if not, ask questions if you want to ask them, and I'll try to answer them here in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. Okay, Sarah, see ya. Anyone else? Okay, well, if no one else has any questions, I'm going to... Oh, Ramez, yeah, that's... I am not a test taker. What I say, I'm not good at memorizing information, and it's not necessarily because it's online. I will tell you that I have difficulty with some of this material. Memorizing, for example, you really have to memorize the OSI model in this course. You just have to need to know. So there's certain tricks like learning how to say. I always go from layer 1 up. Please do not throw sausage pizza away. And then I learned how to write that out and remembered that acronym. Learning all the ins and outs, it's tough. And what I can tell you is read through the material each week. Start on Monday and set aside time. Maybe Monday night you set aside an hour for reading, and then Tuesday or Wednesday you set aside some more time to finish up your reading and do the labs. And it's all a matter of the secret to this course is learning how to do the Cisco operating system. You're going to have questions that you need to answer about that. A lot of the final exam is going to be over that and those types of questions. So it's a tough class, and it's a lot of memorization. And I can tell you, I feel for you because I'm not a memorizing. I don't do well memorizing things. That's not the way my brain operates. I've got a little bit of dyslexia, so I have issues with memorization and how things kind of get loaded into my brain and get pulled back. And so it's just a matter of repetition, just doing it over and over and over again until you get there. And as far as the main thing is learn how to do the operating system, learn how to do all the commands, and just do them over and over and over again, and just keep working with it until you get it. Yeah, and I'll be 48 this year, so I'm right there with you. Understand exactly what you mean. Okay, so Emily's wanting to know, could you go over setting up the passwords in privileged exec mode? Oh, okay, yeah, that's easy enough. Let's go here. Let me pull up the actual lab, building a simple network. I think it's on this. Let me download this here real quick. Oop, I already got that one downloaded, but I'll do it again. And okay. We'll do that. Oh, it's over there. Hold on. Ooh, okay. Two, three, three, four. Let me open that up. And setting up the passwords, the main thing with passwords is remembering what password you're setting. And so there's always some standard ones that you're going to set up on a route, and I'll just use this. I've already got a router out here. And tally-ho, there we go. And let's just go down to the passwords here. And it's telling us that I'm not going to set these up. I'm just going to go down to the password part here, and I'm just going to direct jump into the command line. And let me do this here and do this here. Make that a little bit larger. Now, when we go into the router, and we're just going to go into the command line here, and we're not going to configure, and we're going to get to the user exec mode, and I need to log into the, I need to enable and go into the privileged exec mode. And the trick I can tell you about Cisco operating system is just keeping in mind where you are. If you can just keep a good understanding of where you're located in the operating system, that makes a big difference. So, for example, I know, and I know this is small, and I apologize for that. It's just hard to see. I know if I'm looking at the greater than sign, I'm in the user exec mode, and if I've got the pound sign, I'm in the privileged exec mode. And then from there, it depends on where I'm at. So if I do config T, go in the configuration mode, I can just look over here to the left, and I can see I'm in configuration mode. So I know I'm at that level. So in my mind, I kind of envision the menu of where everything is, and I just have to keep in my mind where I am located at the time. So with that, there's different levels of security, and I'm just going to change the host name real quick so we see, host name S1, that's easy enough. So now we know that that's switch 1. And I'm going to go ahead and put the no IP domain lookup too, just in case I hit a wrong number that keeps it from locking up on me. Okay, and now when we do the passwords, what you have to understand is there's different layers of passwords. There's different layers of security. If we're doing the console password, that's a password to keep somebody from plugging in a console cable and logging in. That's different than the router password, which is the secret password. And then we have passwords on the lines, the TTY lines, the other access lines that come in. So just keep that in mind, that you're dealing with different layers of security or different levels of security for different access points. It would really be nice just to say, I want to put one password on my server or on my router and be done with it. But there is a reason behind why we do these different layers, because you might have somebody that's an admin that comes in and works on the console, and you want a totally different password there than you do on access lines coming in from the outside. So when we are putting what we call local passwords, we're going to enable our secret password, and our secret password is how we get into the router to open up the configuration. We're also going to configure our console password, and that's when we try to get on our console line. So if I do enable secret and I put in the password of class, okay, and that's set, and then I'm going to go into line now. Now I'm changing myself over to the line, my console line console 0, and I'm saying that I want to administer my console line, and so now I'm doing that. I'm configuring my line, and I'm going to say I'm going to set my password of Cisco. It's set, and I'm going to tell it to log in, which forces login. On the console, it's saying this is different than the secret password. It's saying that I want to force login every time on the console to force that password. And then I'm going to exit out of there. And that's the two main passwords that we're setting up right here. But there is a difference. Now, if we exit out of my router, now, because I am correct, yes, class is getting in a privileged exec mode. The Cisco is for getting in on the console line. So let me go in and put a computer on here. Let me put a computer on here and connect a console line on here, so that if I go in on the computer now, if I go in on the computer here and I go into my desktop, I go into terminal, and now when I go into that router, see, it's forcing me to put a password, but that's the console password. That's the console password, and I have to put in the Cisco on there. And now I'm at my user exec mode, but if I do enable, it won't let me in because my privileged exec mode password is class. And that's what the secret password is. It's your privileged exec mode password. And so now I'm able to go in. So it's actually two different layers, and it's not real. And I can see where that could get confusing on here, because it's not explaining that there's two different layers of passwords. So like if I went out here now and went back just to my router and went just to my command line and I exited out, see, when I come back in, well, you know, it's forcing my console password. So, whoops, wrong one, Cisco. And then now to get into enable, that's my privileged exec mode, and I have to put in the Cisco. Now, obviously, you'd put in a much more secure password, but for this class, for Packet Tracer, we just use that easy. Oh, good. Yeah, glad I could help. Yeah, just think of it. It's different keys to your house. One's to get in your front door, and one's to get in your safe. I guess is the right way to say it. Sure, not a problem. Any other questions? No, and I'm going to close some things down. I'm going to stop sharing my desktop.